We tested the brand new foil Crest from Duotone for you in the 925 and 800 square centimeters sizes. In terms of aspect ratio, the foil sits between the glide and carved models, which means the aspect ratio is around 9. For the test, we also used the monoblock-tailed PX and the S. We flew the entire setup with the 84 centimeter carbon Dlab mast. As has been the case for quite some time now, we have a very stable system that is precisely manufactured and achieves a high stiffness for the entire foils. The front wing appears rather unremarkable at first glance, and its shape almost reminds one of an free with relatively good performance, but it actually has nothing to do with that. The leading edge is quite round and soft in terms of its radius, and the outline of the wing is quite strongly tapered, with an almost straight trailing edge. The profile thickness of this type of front wing falls within the medium range. Overall, this foil is slightly upturned at the tips. And once again, it should be mentioned that the build quality here, as we've come to expect in recent years, is truly excellent. The not too thick yet distinctly rounded leading edge of the innovative Crest foil is meticulously designed to deliver an almost unbelievable lift performance. With the 925, we have a comparable lift capacity to a similar 1100 glide foil. Even with very low volume boards and just a slightly more active, consistent pumping motion, the Crest can be brought up to speed quite quickly and efficiently, allowing for a smooth and enjoyable ride. So here you can really truly say that you can comfortably go one full size smaller than you would normally typically think. When flying flat water, we experience smooth, brisk and exhilarating acceleration, and the Crest reaches a good top speed. If you want to use the Crest for free riding, meaning just leisurely cruising back and forth on flat water and executing a few simple maneuvers, you will consistently need to maintain a light, attentive focus and gentle control of the foil. The Crest is not a foil that will effortlessly accompany you on a leisurely Sunday ride. Rather, it prefers to be ridden a bit more actively. And depending on how much you increase this active riding style, the Crest is also capable of boosting its overall performance along with the high stability that then develops. Essentially, this means that the Crest always wants to be ridden with a certain level of commitment. You can really enter maneuvers at high speed, and in small to medium waves with varying inclines, you can easily make one turn after another, and it handles all of this absolutely 100%. However, you shouldn't act hesitantly. To get used to this foil, you might need 1, 2 or 3 sessions until you've gained that confidence. That it really handles everything in this area, especially when it comes to quick changes on the pitch axis. In other words, when you have to adjust the angle of inclination to the steepness of the wave. Or also the sensitive roll, which it definitely has. You can really lean into it, and even with just a little pressure against the foil, you get an incredible amount of drive. In other words, the speed increases massively in the turn radii as well. And once you get accustomed to the fact that the Crest works best when you always ride with a consistent bit of gentle pressure against the foil, you can then really link together incredibly clean and fluid executed turns. These are an absolute pleasure, and in this form also so reliable because there's no loss of speed, even if you momentarily lose lift in a turn and then re-enter the wave. Everything flows very, very smoothly, it never stalls, and there's no loss of speed. It really is an incredibly pleasant experience. Even though the Duotone Crest isn't designed for jumping and freestyle, you can still manage some light jumps with it. However, one should always keep in mind that when landing, you will really get slowed down quite a lot, and basically, you will have to start completely from scratch again. In addition to its inherent strengths, specifically the effortless smooth movement of the foil, it also offers impressive glide capabilities and excellent pumpability. If, for a brief moment, you don't quite have enough push from the wave, with a gentle pumping motion, you can quickly get right back up to speed, which, as mentioned at the beginning, is always needed for the wing to fully show its performance. So always apply a little bit of pressure against the foil, and then it really does everything excellently, especially when it comes to its suitability for waves. Let's sum it all up again. What's special here is that you can very quickly adjust the angle of inclination along the pitch axis to perfectly match the steepness of the wave without any loss of speed. If you then bend your knees a bit and apply some pressure from the turn onto the foil, you'll get a noticeably improved speed and sometimes exit the turn even faster than you entered it. It's worth mentioning again that all of this works without requiring any noticeably greater effort. The whole thing is always and completely free at all times. And to come back to the stubby once more, for wing foiling, which is what we exclusively tested, the PX stubby is the right combination. However, if you want to take things a bit more aggressively in terms of your riding technique and style, or if you want to go prone, the S stubby is definitely worth trying. We have to admit that it took us a few sessions to get used to the truly absolutely smooth ride of the Crest. That was a feeling that simply wasn't possible with other foils to this extent, or just didn't come up as a sensation. That's why we were a bit skeptical here and there at the beginning. But after getting the hang of this foil, you just have to say, for waves, especially in our Baltic and North Sea conditions, there is hardly a better partner. And if you compare it to the brand's own portfolio, the Carve is certainly the foil that turns even tighter, right on point. It's a bit more skatey, a bit edgier in flight, and the glide is naturally a bit better in terms of glide, even though the Crest's characteristics here are already exceptionally high. Especially in combination with small pumping maneuvers in between, which can really accelerate the foil nicely. If you possess intermediate riding skills and have a good bit of intuitive feel for handling the foil, then absolutely nothing stands in the way of experiencing pure, unadulterated wave riding fun.